She reached out her hand, smiling, perfectly poised for the cameras. Kylie didn't even blink. Just 3 ice-cold words. I don't know you. Now pause for a second and let that sink in. We're not talking about some fan from the sidelines. We're talking about Meghan Markle, a woman who once walked the halls of Windsor Castle, a duchess, a Netflix producer, a global headline magnate. And yet, on this night, in front of flashing lights and buzzing Hollywood elites, she was nothing more than a stranger. Dismissed. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. And not just by anyone, but by Kylie Jenner, billionaire, media mogul, and, most importantly, the gatekeeper to Hollywood's next generation of power players. So, how did it come to this? Because let's be honest, this wasn't just a snub. This was a statement. This was public humiliation served cold, with 10,000 camera flashes as garnish. But was this moment just the final straw? Or was it orchestrated from the very beginning? See, to understand this moment, this photo op that never happened, we need to rewind. Because this wasn't just a random run-in gone wrong. This wasn't just Meghan trying to be friendly. No, this was months, maybe years, in the making. And the cracks began long before the red carpet ever rolled out. Now, before we dive into the jaw-dropping details of the premiere night, where Meghan approached Kylie in full glam, only to be met with that now infamous cold shoulder, we need to ask a bigger question. One that flips the entire narrative on its head. Why was Meghan Markle, a former royal, begging for relevance in the first place? And why was Kylie Jenner, who built her empire on being photographed, suddenly allergic to a single snapshot? Because let's be real, Kylie doesn't usually say no to the camera. But this time, she didn't just say no. She buried Meghan with it. And the silence that followed? It was deafening. But let me tell you this. That silence was calculated. It was a message, not just to Meghan, but to anyone watching. A line had been drawn. And in that moment, on that red carpet, Meghan Markle was on the wrong side of it. So how did we get here? Well, it didn't start with Kylie. It didn't even start with Meghan's Hollywood comeback tour. It started the second Meghan and Harry decided to step back from the royal family. The second they traded castles for casting calls. Remember that? The infamous Megxit, the Oprah interview, the Spotify fallout, the Netflix controversies, the Archewell mess. For a while, it looked like Meghan was unstoppable. She was everywhere. But then, something shifted. Suddenly, the invites stopped. The collaborations dried up. The A-listers stopped calling. And yet, Kylie's star only rose higher. More deals, more shows, more control, and crucially, more selectivity. She doesn't just show up anymore. She curates. And on the night of the Marty Supreme Premiere, every single detail had been curated. Except Meghan. Let's break this down for a second. The Marty Supreme Premiere wasn't just a movie event. It was a cultural statement. A fusion of fashion, film, and social media firepower. Everyone who mattered was there. From Kindle and archival Galliano, to Doja Cat wrapped in metallic latex, to rising Gen Z influencers live streaming their walk in real time. It was the event. And Meghan? She wasn't even on the original guest list. You heard that right. Sources close to the organizers revealed that her invite came at the last minute. Not from the production, not from Kylie's team, but through a third-party PR firm pushing her as a disruptive Hollywood visionary. Let that irony sink in. She had to pitch herself to get in. And once she did, everything else unraveled in slow motion. From the moment she arrived, there was already a chill in the air. She smiled for the cameras, but the cameras weren't aimed at her. She posed, but the photographers looked past her. Then came the whispering. Heard Kylie isn't happy Meghan's here. She tried to get a photo with Hailey, got brushed off. Jenner camp says no contact. This wasn't a snub. This was an organized freeze-out. And still, Meghan moved forward. Why? Because she needed that moment. That photo. That single shot of her and Kylie, smiling together. Powerful, glamorous, untouchable. It would have reset the narrative. It would have told the world, I'm still in the game. But what she got instead was rejection. Now, we're going to take you through that night in excruciating detail. Every whispered conversation. Every blocked shot. Every internal panic from Meghan's team as it became increasingly clear. This night would end in disaster. But it gets worse. Because behind the scenes, Kylie knew exactly what she was doing. And Meghan? She walked right into it. You're going to hear from insiders who were there. Industry PR reps who warned Meghan weeks earlier. Even alleged leaked texts from Kylie's camp showing exactly what they thought of Meghan's desperation move. We're not just telling you what happened. We're unpacking why it happened. And why Meghan's downfall in Hollywood might be further along than anyone suspected. But this isn't just about one moment. This is about a shift. A tectonic change in Hollywood's unspoken hierarchy, where old royalty is being replaced by new blood, where power no longer comes from birthright, but from brand equity. And Meghan? She may have had the crown, but Kylie? She has the clout. So ask yourself, was this a coincidence? Or was Meghan Markle's rejection? On camera, in public, at the hands of a Kardashian Jenner, the final chapter in a slow-burn exile from the very industry she thought she could conquer? Because what you're about to hear will change how you see everything. From Meghan's calculated press plays, to the silent deals happening behind closed Hollywood doors, to the unspoken rules of celebrity warfare in 2025, you'll see how one red carpet rejection didn't just humiliate Meghan. It exposed her intentions, her insecurities, her fading influence. And Kylie? She didn't even have to raise her voice. She just turned, smirked, and said, I don't know you. But what if I told you? That wasn't the worst thing Meghan heard that night? Because what came next would change everything. And no one saw it coming. What if the worst part of the night wasn't Kylie Jenner saying, I don't know you? What if the real damage came after the cameras stopped clicking? Because the moment Kylie turned away, Meghan wasn't just embarrassed. She was exposed. Exposed to a room full of powerful people who were already watching her closely. Exposed to industry players who had been silently questioning her motives for months. Exposed to a generation of influencers who no longer saw her as iconic, but out of touch. So here's the question that matters. How does a former royal, a woman who once shook hands with world leaders, end up ignored by the likes of TikTok stars and 24-year-old cosmetic moguls? It started with the carpet. And this wasn't just any red carpet. This was a battlefield. The Marty Supreme Premiere was unlike anything Meghan had walked into before. Not because of the venue, not because of the film, but because of the power dynamics behind that velvet rope. The second Meghan arrived, late, notably, something was off. It was subtle, but undeniable. The camera flashes dimmed. The press didn't surge forward. Even the correspondents, usually frothing for a soundbite, gave her the kind of, oh, you're here too glance reserved for C-listers trying to make a comeback. Why? Because Meghan wasn't invited. She was inserted. Her name wasn't on the original press memo. There were no confirmed media moments booked for her. No planned interviews. No exclusive photos. Her team had scrambled, days before the event, to secure her a slot. Multiple sources confirm it was a last-minute placement, brokered by an external publicist unaffiliated with the film or the production company. They described it as a strategic visibility moment. Translation? They needed to get her photographed with the right people, not just to stay relevant, but to re-establish her Hollywood presence. Because let's be honest, the Meghan Markle brand has been wobbling. Spotify backed out. Netflix allegedly issued ultimatums. Archewell was hemorrhaging staff. The philanthropic facade was starting to wear thin. So the plan? Reframe Meghan as Hollywood chic again. Glamorous, powerful, aligned with pop culture's royal court, aka the Kardashians and their sphere of influence. And on paper, the Marty Supreme Premiere was perfect. A-list stars, influencers, rising moguls, global attention. The guest list read like a Forbes 30 under 30 meets a Met Gala afterparty. Zendaya, Timothy, Bella Hadid, Emma Chamberlain, Kendall, Hailey, Doja, Billie Eilish, and, of course, Kylie Jenner. But here's the catch. There's a new rule in modern Hollywood. You're either invited to the table, or you're a spectator, trying to claw your way in. Meghan didn't realize she was the latter, because the moment she stepped onto that carpet, the energy shifted. First, the photographers. They snapped. Briefly, but only because they recognized her face. Then, silence. No one called her name. No one shouted, Meghan, this way. No flurry of shutters. Compare that to when Kylie arrived. Her entrance was choreographed like a royal coronation. She stepped out of the car, security parted the crowd, and every single lens turned in her direction. The screaming, the flashbulbs, the choreographed hair flip. Kylie didn't have to demand attention. She commanded it. And Meghan? She watched it all from a few feet away, smiling tightly, standing awkwardly on the side, waiting for someone to acknowledge her presence. And here's where it gets brutal. You know those celebrity handlers? The ones who shuttle stars down the carpet, guiding them like chess pieces? They skipped Meghan entirely. No handler assigned. No usher guiding her into a photo opportunity. No carefully staged encounter with another A-lister. She was left to fend for herself. So what does Meghan do? She tries to improvise. She spots Hailey Bieber chatting with Kendall Jenner and a cluster of TikTok beauty influencers. She approaches slowly, casually, pretending to scroll through her phone as she inches closer. She's hoping for proximity. A photo, a nod, a moment. But the group drifts. One influencer adjusts her dress and pivots left. Another glances at Meghan, then back at Kendall with a tight smile. Hailey turns and suddenly finds herself pulled by her publicist to another station. Avoidance. Calculated. Meghan stands there, still smiling, still posing, waiting for someone to bite. And then, she sees her. Kylie, in a stunning black latex corset gown, walking directly toward the main step-in repeat. This is it. This is the moment. The photo she came for. The one that could undo months of bad press. Meghan plus Kylie equals viral gold. She moves. Camera-ready smile locked in. Hands poised. Body angled perfectly toward the lens. She walks up, leaning slightly, head tilted in that familiar Duchess nod. Kylie. Hi. I. And then ice. Kylie doesn't stop. Doesn't slow down. She glances. Briefly. And delivers the kill shot. I don't know you. 3 words. Flat. Final. Devastating. Now, imagine you're Meghan in that moment. The silence. The stares. The whir of paparazzi cameras capturing the entire thing. The awkward shuffle as Kylie moves past. Cool. Unbothered. Entirely in control. And the worst part? It wasn't just a snub. It was a message. Because Kylie could have ignored her. Could have smiled politely. Could have posed, said nothing, and walked away. But she didn't. She responded. And in that one phrase, I don't know you, she did something far more brutal than silence. She publicly revoked Meghan's Hollywood pass. Because when Kylie says she doesn't know you, it spreads. It sets the tone. It gives permission to others to do the same. And that's exactly what happened. What followed in the next few minutes was a red carpet Cold War in full effect. People Meghan used to exchange pleasantries with avoided her. Publicists shifted their clients away. Photographers lowered their lenses. The energy turned from indifferent to radioactive. But what's even more telling is what came after the carpet. At the after-party. And let me warn you, what happened inside was even colder than what happened outside. Because the Meghan versus Kylie feud, it didn't end on the carpet. It escalated behind closed doors. With witnesses. With whispers. And with one move from Kris Jenner that made sure Meghan would never be welcome again. But that's a story for the next chapter. Because what came next would change everything. And no one saw it coming. Do you remember the exact moment your stomach dropped and your mind screamed? Did that really just happen? That was Meghan Markle, frozen, smiling through gritted teeth, eyes darting to make sure the cameras didn't catch what her heart already knew. This wasn't just a no. This was rejection in Dolby surround sound. This was Hollywood telling her, without saying it outright, you don't belong here anymore. 3 words. 12 letters. I don't know you. And in a world built on relationships, visibility, and brand alignment, those words were a death sentence. But here's the sick twist. She asked for it. Not intentionally, of course. Meghan never expected to be dismissed like a clingy +1. But in her desperation to re-enter the elite Hollywood circle. After months of faltering deals, public gaffes, and radio silence from the A-list, Meghan made a crucial mistake. She chased Kylie Jenner. And in this town, you don't chase. You get invited. Now let's break down what actually happened in that surreal moment. Not from tabloids, but from eyewitnesses. Because multiple people saw it, heard it, felt the tension cut through the air like a hot knife. They described Meghan's approach as calculated. She waited until Kylie finished a press interview, then approached the step-in repeat with the practiced smile of someone who knows how this game is supposed to be played. Only the rules had changed, and Meghan didn't get the memo. She extended her hand halfway, not too eager, just enough for the cameras to think it was a friendly hello. She tilted her head, just so, positioning her best angle toward the flashbulbs. She opened her mouth to say something breezy, a little scripted but warm. But Kylie didn't take the bait. She barely paused. She didn't stop, didn't smile, didn't give Meghan a second to recover. "I don't know you." The crowd didn't gasp, but they froze. It was the kind of phrase that makes the air suck out of a room, even if the room is outside. Now let's unpack those 3 words. "I don't know you." Kylie could have said, "Nice to see you. How are you?" "Oh hey, Meghan." Even a neutral "hey" would have sufficed. But she chose deliberate erasure. She didn't just refuse a photo. She denied familiarity. She turned Meghan from a public figure into a nobody in less than a second. Now, you might be asking, was Kylie just being petty? Or was there more beneath the surface? Because trust me, Kylie Jenner doesn't say anything without purpose. Every move, every look, every whisper, especially in public, is carefully crafted. And if she chose to make a scene this small, yet this loud, it was likely planned. Sources close to the event suggest that Kylie was warned Meghan would be attending at the last minute. Apparently, her team was not pleased. One anonymous insider claimed Kylie told her assistant earlier that day, "Keep her away from me. I'm not doing another PR pity shot." Wait, another? That phrase alone suggests this wasn't Meghan's first attempt at photobombing her way back into the A-list crowd. But this time, the rejection was captured. And it was final. Because here's where the emotional sting really begins. Meghan didn't just lose a photo. She lost a narrative. This was supposed to be her comeback moment. Her team had planned for days. They had an entire rollout strategy, coordinated outfit, subtle nods to Diana's red carpet looks, a possible Vogue piece teasing her surprise appearance. They'd even pitched quotes to media outlets in advance, framing Meghan's presence as an empowering return to Hollywood on her terms. And in 5 seconds, Kylie obliterated all of it. No editor wanted to run that quote anymore. No outlet wanted to be the one defending a woman who'd just been publicly ghosted. So what did Meghan do? She froze. One source said she tried to laugh it off, mouthing something like, "Haha, okay," and quickly turning her face back to the cameras, pretending like it was no big deal. But the damage was visible. The tension in her jaw, the slight tremble in her hand. The way her team, huddled 10 feet away, suddenly broke into frantic whispers. And then came the worst part. The silence. Because in these moments, you expect someone, anyone, to step in and smooth things over. But nobody did. Not a publicist. Not a peer. Not even a junior-level assistant trying to save face. Meghan was alone. On a carpet she'd fought to get on. Surrounded by people who knew her name, but no longer cared to say it. Now, here's where the contradictions pile up. How can someone once revered as a global symbol of resilience, grace, and progressive royalty be reduced to background noise? This is where it gets dark. Because Meghan didn't just fall out of favor. She became a liability. Over the last year, more and more celebrities have begun distancing themselves from the Sussexes. Not publicly, but strategically. No appearances together. No brand alignments. No Instagram shoutouts. Why? Because drama is contagious. And in Hollywood, the one thing more toxic than bad PR is desperate PR. And what do you think Meghan looked like in that moment? Not powerful. Not relevant. Not even controversial. She looked like someone trying too hard. And nothing kills celebrity status faster than trying. Meanwhile, Kylie? She didn't even flinch. She walked past Meghan like she'd never seen her before. And when asked about it later by paparazzi outside the after-party, she said, nothing. Total silence. And that silence spoke volumes. But here's the twist. Meghan didn't leave. She didn't disappear into the night. She walked inside the venue, smiling, chin up, pretending like nothing had happened. Because that's what survivors do. They fake strength. They project confidence even when the walls are crumbling inside. But the cracks were showing. And once inside, the snubs only got worse. But we'll get there. Because what you need to understand first is this. That one moment. The rejection, the snub, the subtle but seismic, "I don't know you," became a turning point. Not just in the event. Not just in Meghan's night. In her brand. Because within hours, the clip was everywhere. TikTok edits of Kylie walking past her. Tweets comparing Meghan to that girl from high school who no one remembers at the reunion. Reddit threads mocking her body language. Even YouTubers dissecting the footage frame by frame like it was the Zapruder film. And what was Meghan's team doing? Melting down. Frantic calls to media contacts. Desperate requests to clarify context. Even one alleged attempt to suggest Kylie misheard her. But it was too late. The image was burned into the internet's memory. Kylie, cool, calm, powerful. Meghan, reaching out, rejected, pretending it didn't hurt. And let's be honest, it did hurt. Because it wasn't about the photo. It was about the position. In that 5-second exchange, Meghan went from influencer adjacent to influencer chased. And when you're seen as the one doing the chasing, you've already lost the game. So what does Meghan do next? She pivots. She leans harder into the narrative. Pushes her team to schedule emergency interviews. Starts planting leaked stories about upcoming projects. But no one's biting. Because Hollywood doesn't reward humiliation. It punishes it. Quietly. Efficiently. Permanently. And now? Meghan was radioactive. But here's the most brutal irony. Kylie didn't humiliate her by screaming. She didn't slap her. She didn't even raise her voice. She just didn't care. And that, for someone like Meghan, who's built an empire on attention, identity, and control, is worse than hate. It's apathy. But this wasn't just a red carpet meltdown. This was the start of a strategic freeze-out. And in the next chapter, you'll see exactly how the walls closed in. Because Kylie's rejection wasn't personal. It was coordinated. And what came next wasn't just another snub, it was revenge. And no one saw it coming. Was it really just about a photo? Or was Kylie Jenner's viral cold shoulder the culmination of months, if not years, of carefully controlled distance? Because here's what most people missed. That red carpet moment wasn't spontaneous. It wasn't some petty, impulsive celebrity outburst. It was the final act of a quiet, deliberate campaign. A campaign to make it crystal clear. Kylie wanted nothing to do with Meghan Markle. Not in public, not in private, not in branding, not in narrative. Because contrary to Meghan's assumptions, the Kardashians don't orbit anyone else's spotlight. They are the spotlight. And Meghan? She tried to plug into it without permission. Big mistake. So let's rewind. Long before the Marty Supreme Premiere, before the snub, before the internet exploded with memes, Kylie Jenner had already been distancing herself. Subtly, strategically, silently. And if you know how to read the Hollywood playbook, the signs were everywhere. First, let's talk DMs. Sources close to the Kardashians reveal that Meghan had reached out to Kylie multiple times throughout 2024. Not about skincare. Not about Stormi's birthday party. About collaborations. Influencer-style partnerships. Cross-brand moments. Charity, visibility tie-ins. Even talks of joining a panel at the Women of Worth Summit, an event Meghan was allegedly trying to headline alongside Kylie and Zendaya. Kylie's response? Crickets. Not outright rejection. No press-worthy drama. Just nothing. And that silence was loud. Because in the Kardashian universe, a ghost is louder than a slap. You see, when Kylie doesn't respond, she's speaking volumes. Now, you might be wondering, why not just respond? Why not be polite? Why ghost? Simple. Because Meghan wasn't just asking for a collab. She was asking for credibility. Kylie saw it for what it was, a rebrand opportunity, for Meghan. Not mutual benefit. Not friendship. A strategic attachment. And Kylie? She doesn't do needy. Remember, this is the woman who turned a lip kit into a billion-dollar empire. She doesn't climb ladders. She builds them. And in her world, Meghan had already fallen too many rungs. Let's go deeper. Insiders say Meghan tried to invite Kylie to an Archwell gala in early 2024. Not only did Kylie not attend, she didn't even RSVP. Her team allegedly passed along the invite, but never followed up. Standard Hollywood speak for, no thanks, but we're not going to embarrass you. But behind the scenes, Kylie was already annoyed. Why? Because Meghan's invite came with conditions. Sources say Meghan's team wanted equal billing in press coverage. They also suggested a red carpet photo to highlight two powerful female disruptors. Kylie's reaction? Total shutdown. She reportedly told her manager, "I'm not being used." There it is. That word, used. Because that's how Meghan was starting to be perceived by the A-list elite. Not as a collaborator, not as an equal, as someone using proximity to claw her way back to relevance. And that's a reputation you do not want in Hollywood. Because the minute people sense desperation, They back away. Which brings us to one of the most telling moments of all, Coachella 2025. It wasn't televised. It wasn't paparazzi heavy. But insiders say this was the weekend Kylie made her final decision. Both Meghan and Kylie were at the same afterparty, hosted by a major streaming platform. Meghan showed up with her team, looking stunning, trying to be low-key, but clearly aiming for FaceTime. Kylie was holding court with Hailey Bieber, Rosalia, and a few D'Amelio sisters. Meghan hovered. She waited for an opening, a break in the conversation, a moment to slide in with a friendly joke or comment. It never came. Kylie allegedly avoided eye contact the entire night. Not out of cruelty, out of intent. One insider described it as a performance in boundaries. She wasn't just ignoring Meghan. She was signaling to everyone in that tent. This woman is not part of my circle. And in Hollywood, social cues like that travel fast. Within days, 2 other influencer brands allegedly pulled out of proposed deals with Archwell's lifestyle arm. Why? Because if Kylie wasn't endorsing it, they weren't either. Now let's talk family. What did Kris Jenner think of all this? Well, let's just say Kris knows a sinking ship when she sees one. Sources say Meghan's team made overtures to Kris as far back as 2023. Invitations, partnership pitches, let's do something for women kind of emails. Kris never replied directly. She sent her assistant to politely pass and didn't engage again. And when Meghan's team tried a final time in mid-2025, proposing a joint media campaign for redefining modern womanhood, Kris allegedly said, she wants to redefine everything except herself. That line hit like a dagger, because beneath all the PR, Kris saw what others were beginning to whisper. Meghan wasn't evolving. She was scrambling, and that's not something the Kardashian brand aligns with. So when Meghan's team pitched the idea of a photo op with Kylie at the Marty Supreme Premiere, just a casual red carpet bump into, Kylie's answer wasn't just no. It was never. Multiple insiders confirmed Kylie's camp explicitly instructed event coordinators that she would not pose with Meghan under any circumstances. They even adjusted her red carpet arrival time to avoid overlap. And yet, Meghan showed up anyway. And what happened next, we already know. But now you see it wasn't random. It wasn't a moment of bad timing. It wasn't just celebrity friction. It was a boundary, enforced. Kylie had seen enough, ignored enough, sidestepped enough. She was done. And the red carpet moment? That was her final punctuation mark. So where does that leave Meghan? In limbo. Rejected by one of the most powerful families in American pop culture. Burned by the same Hollywood machine she once tried to conquer. And worst of all, publicly iced out by someone who doesn't even need to speak to dominate a narrative. Because in Kylie's world, the power isn't in what you say. It's in who you ignore. And Meghan? She'd become the woman no one wanted to acknowledge. But the worst was still coming. Because Kylie's coldness was just the surface. Beneath it, a bigger, more brutal reality. Meghan had misjudged her audience. She thought Hollywood worked like the royal family. Play the image. Control the message. Win the press. But Hollywood? Hollywood eats that alive. It sees through it. It's ruthless. And it doesn't forget. And after Kylie's silent shutdown, the industry began sending its own signals. Muted replies. Postponed meetings. PR teams advising clients to not get involved. Meghan had gone from aspirational to avoidable. And in the next chapter, we'll take you inside the night it all cracked wide open. Because Meghan thought she had one last chance to control the narrative. But what happened at that dinner would turn the silent rejection into an unforgettable, unerasable humiliation. And no one saw it coming. What if the real betrayal didn't happen on the red carpet, but over dinner? A candlelit dining room. A hand-picked guest list. Crystal glasses clinking. Laughter swirling through the air like perfume. And at the center of it all, Meghan Markle, fully convinced that tonight would be her comeback. She thought she had control. She thought this dinner was her reset. She thought everyone in the room was there to support her. But in just 1 hour, that illusion would collapse. And by dessert, Meghan would realize the Hollywood she thought welcomed her was already gone. So let's set the stage. This wasn't some random celebrity dinner party. This was the Maven Table, an ultra-exclusive, invite-only salon hosted every quarter by a rotating group of media moguls, fashion icons, and entertainment execs. Think of it as Hollywood's most elite think tank, part networking, part strategy, part social currency. You don't ask to be invited. You're chosen. So how did Meghan Markle get in? She wasn't. Not at first. According to insiders, her name wasn't even discussed for the spring 2025 gathering. But then someone dropped out. Last minute. High profile. Logistics nightmare. And that's when Meghan's team moved fast. They reached out to one of the lesser-known co-hosts. Pitched Meghan as the perfect fit for that evening's theme. Reinvention in a new era. They even had bullet points ready. From actress to royal. From royal to activist. From activist to Hollywood executive. They framed her as a woman who had been through fire and come out diamond-plated. And it worked. Barely. Meghan was penciled in. Not spotlighted. Not honored. Just placed. Quietly. But Meghan didn't do quiet. She showed up dressed like it was the Oscars. Custom ivory column gown. Diamond drop earrings. Hair swept into an immaculate side-part bun. Perfectly positioned for photos that weren't allowed. Because here's the thing. Maven dinners are off the record. No media. No social posts. No entourage. Just you, the conversation, and your place at the table. But Meghan came with her own agenda. According to multiple sources, she arrived not only with her personal assistant, but with a PR strategist. That alone was a red flag. She broke the cardinal rule. Don't bring handlers to the Maven table. Still, the host let it slide. Out of courtesy. Out of curiosity. But it didn't take long before things started to feel off. Meghan spent most of the cocktail hour introducing herself. Not just politely, but aggressively. One guest recalled. She walked up to me, handed me a card, like a business card, but it was embossed with her Archwell mission statement. It felt like a pitch, not a conversation. Others noticed her weaving conversations back to herself. When a film producer talked about a recent documentary project, Meghan pivoted to her Netflix series. When a philanthropist discussed refugee aid in Jordan, Meghan replied with, "Yes, we were supposed to visit there, but the optics weren't right at the time." The room shifted. You could feel the subtle glances, the polite smiles tightening, the energy cooling. Then dinner was served. And that's when the real unraveling began. Each guest was asked to share a personal insight on reinvention. It wasn't a TED Talk moment, just a reflection, a spark. When Meghan's turn came, she stood. Everyone else had spoken from their seats. Quick anecdotes. Honest. Light. But Meghan? She delivered a monologue. Nearly 10 minutes long. It included a reference to Princess Diana. A metaphor about being a seed that broke through the frost of the monarchy. And a carefully placed mention of how even Kylie Jenner is redefining what feminine power looks like in today's culture. Subtle, right? By the end, you could hear forks scraping plates and nothing else. Someone coughed. Someone else reached for their wine. A third person, reportedly a major studio exec, glanced at his watch. And that's when it happened. One guest, a well-known fashion investor with deep ties to the Kardashian camp, leaned over to the woman next to him and whispered, "She thinks this is a press conference." Unfortunately for him, the mic on the centerpiece, a tool used to capture audio for private transcripts, was still on. It wasn't live-streamed, but it was recorded. And when the dinner wrapped, that quote traveled. It didn't end up in tabloids, but it echoed in group chats. It hit agents' inboxes. It reached Kris Jenner's desk. And her response? Allegedly, just 3 words. "She's done here." Now, let's be clear. That quote was just the symbolic turning point. The actual damage came from what Meghan did next. Because instead of reading the room, instead of gracefully exiting the spotlight and letting others take space, Meghan doubled down. The very next day, her team sent emails to several attendees. Thank you notes? No. Follow-up pitches. Suggestions to co-host women's initiatives. Ideas for a Maven-style Archwell spinoff. Requests to brainstorm visibility campaigns together. The responses? None. Not even a thanks, we'll think about it. And that silence was deafening. Meghan had officially misplayed her hand. She thought this dinner was a stepping stone, a re-entry point. Instead, it became the night she confirmed what many in the industry already suspected. She wasn't there to connect. She was there to use. And people talk. Quietly, carefully, but constantly. Within a week, other Maven guests began pulling away. One brand strategist canceled a planned Archwell consulting session. A luxury label politely postponed a potential endorsement deal. Even a philanthropic foundation allegedly paused Meghan's speaker invitation for an upcoming summit. Why? Because reputational risk matters in these rooms. And associating with someone seen as self-serving, even subtly, can cost everyone. But Meghan didn't give up. In the days following the dinner, her PR machine kicked into overdrive. She staged a surprise school visit with local LA students, released a new podcast teaser with pre-recorded clips, even dropped hints about a big summer collaboration without naming names. It was smoke, not fire, and it didn't fool anyone, because the Maven dinner had already done the damage. But here's the cruel twist. Even after all that, Meghan still believed she could fix things, still thought she could reverse the tide, still thought she could find a way to pivot. And that's why she went to the Marty Supreme Premiere. That was her Hail Mary. Her last-ditch attempt to be seen, alongside someone untouchable. Kylie Jenner, the woman she referenced in that dinner speech. The brand she'd been quietly chasing. The empire she wanted to align with. But Kylie? Kylie remembered everything. The overreaching invite. The dinner speech. The pitchy emails. The way Meghan tried to wrap herself in relevance by name-dropping people she'd never actually spoken to. And Kylie doesn't forget. So when Meghan walked toward her on that carpet, smiling, poised, hopeful, Kylie didn't just reject her. She finished her. And the dinner that was meant to change everything? It did. Just not the way Meghan imagined. Because from that night on, Meghan wasn't seen as misunderstood. She wasn't seen as a victim of bad press. She was seen as what Hollywood fears most. A brand trying too hard to stay alive. But what came next was even worse. Because Meghan wasn't the only one suffering. Prince Harry, already frustrated, already fading, was about to face his own Hollywood reckoning. And the next rejection would come from inside their own team. Some doors in Hollywood don't slam shut. They never open in the first place. And for Meghan Markle, no matter how hard she knocked, texted, pitched, or posed, the Kardashian-Jenner door was never going to budge. But why? Why would the most media-savvy family in the world, a clan that built an empire on publicity, partnerships, and powerful female alliances, completely shut out Meghan Markle? She was beautiful, famous, globally recognizable. She came with controversy, yes? But the Kardashians thrive on controversy. So what went wrong? The truth is, it wasn't one single reason. It was an invisible checklist, a series of red flags. And Meghan, whether knowingly or not, kept triggering all of them. Let's start with the biggest misunderstanding Meghan made. She thought they were the same. Meghan believed she and Kim had walked similar paths. Women constantly judged for their ambition, scrutinized for their looks, their relationships, their fame. Women who built their brands in hostile territory. But what Meghan failed to see, the Kardashians never played victims. They played the game. They owned the game. They monetized the criticism, turned every scandal into a storyline, every backlash into a business move. Meghan? She tried to rise above it, reframe it, control it. And that was her first mistake. Because in the Kardashian ecosystem, control is currency. And if you don't bring any to the table, you're not invited to sit. So let's talk logistics. Multiple sources confirmed that in early 2024, Meghan's team approached Kris Jenner with a proposal for a joint initiative, a women's empowerment campaign that would unite two influential female empires. The pitch? Meghan plus Kim, a televised panel series, global outreach, fashion plus philanthropy crossover. On paper, it sounded like a media goldmine, but Kris didn't even blink. Her response, according to a high-level PR source? We don't build brands we don't own. Boom. Because that's the second problem. Meghan wanted exposure. Kris wanted control. And in Kardashian world, you don't enter without surrendering creative authority. Editorial say, narrative framing, the spin. That's how they've survived and dominated in every news cycle for 15 years. Meghan wanted to collaborate. Kris wanted to curate. And from there, the silence only deepened. Kylie took her cues. Khloe politely ghosted. Even Kendall, famously aloof, made it clear to her stylists. No crossover campaigns, not even whispers. But Meghan didn't take the hint. She kept pushing, trying new angles, back-channeling through mutual friends, even attending events where Jenner-affiliated brands were sponsoring. But here's where it gets really telling. Kris didn't need to block Meghan publicly. She just needed to not include her. There was no blacklist, no tabloid war, No reality show shade. There was just nothing. And in this industry, nothing is lethal. Remember the Schemes Gala in late 2024? It was the buzziest night of the year. A who's who of celebrity body positivity. Giselle, Naomi Campbell, Rosalia, Selena Gomez. Even A-list men joined the campaign. Timothée Chalamet, Michael B. Jordan. Meghan was conspicuously absent. Her name had been tossed around in early drafts of invite lists. But according to a producer involved in the project, Chris gave one rule. If she's in, I'm out. Game over. Now let's get deeper. The real tension wasn't about competition. It was about narrative risk. Meghan's brand was unstable. Not just controversial, unpredictable. The Netflix deal was already showing cracks. Spotify had imploded. Archewell wasn't delivering headlines. It was delivering lawsuits and staff exits. Compare that to the Kardashian empire. Say what you want about them, but their brand is tight. From product launches to Instagram captions, everything is calculated. Attaching that to Meghan would have been like inviting a lightning storm into your production trailer. And Kris Jenner knows storms. She doesn't invite them. She sells them with a forecast. Now let's talk image. At the heart of Kardashian success is aesthetic dominance. They control visuals, angles, lighting, editing. They own the way they are seen. Meghan's public image? Inconsistent, fractured, unfiltered, and not in the good way. From Vanity Fair glamour shots to grocery store pap walks in Montecito sweatpants, her team couldn't lock a tone. Hollywood noticed. So did Chris. And then came the final straw, the one moment that, according to insiders, permanently ended any chance of reconciliation. It was early 2025. A high-level producer, who'd worked on both Hulu and Netflix Kardashian projects, reportedly held a private brunch to brainstorm a new female-forward docuseries. Meghan got wind of it. She wasn't invited. Still, she showed up. Not as a guest, but as a surprise drop-in. I just happened to be in the area maneuver. Sources say the room froze. One attendee told a journalist off the record. It was like someone brought a guest to a funeral who thought it was a wedding. Meghan pitched herself, right there. Said she wanted to redefine what female success looks like post-monarchy. Said she was open to filming parts of her transition. The room smiled politely, nodded, clapped at the end, and never spoke to her again. The message was clear. Meghan wanted a seat at the table, but the Kardashians are the table, and they weren't making room. Because here's the brutal truth. Kylie didn't humiliate Meghan out of spite. She did it out of strategy. Meghan's approach at the Marty Supreme Premiere wasn't just awkward. It was invasive. And in Kylie's world, you don't let a collapsing brand latch onto yours, especially not on camera. So when she said, "I don't know you," she meant it. Not as an insult, as a line, a wall, a force field. Because once Kris draws the line, the daughters follow. No drama, no shade, no scandal, just silence. And that silence has been deafening. But here's where it gets cruelly ironic. Meghan once fled the royal family for its cold traditions, its rules, its suffocating hierarchies. And she landed in Hollywood, where the rules are colder, the traditions sharper, and the hierarchies completely invisible until you're already at the bottom of one. But Meghan wasn't ready to admit it. Not yet, because she still had one final card to play. A PR gamble so risky, so desperate, that if it failed, she'd lose the last shred of dignity she had left in the Hollywood game. And that gamble? It involved setting up the press for a chance moment with Kylie. Only this time, Kylie knew she was being baited. And her revenge would make Meghan's red carpet humiliation look tame. If you're already drowning, what do? You reach for anything, even if it pulls you deeper. And that's exactly what Meghan Markle did after the Kylie Jenner red carpet rejection went viral. She didn't retreat. She didn't pause. She doubled down. Because in her mind, that moment, that public humiliation, could still be rewritten. All she needed was the right angle. A perfect shot. A narrative flip. One iconic photo to go viral, not for embarrassment, but for elegance. Not for rejection, but for resilience. And so, her team cooked up one last Hail Mary. The paparazzi setup. A manufactured run-in with Kylie Jenner. Framed as spontaneous. Scripted down to the lighting. But the plan? It didn't just fail. It backfired in a way so brutal, so irreversible. Even Meghan's most loyal media allies couldn't spin it. Let's walk through what happened. First, The intent. The idea was simple on paper. Meghan and Kylie photographed together, civilly, in a casual environment. Not a red carpet. Not a gala. Something organic. A shared smile. A polite embrace. Even just walking in parallel could be enough. The optics? Powerful. It would paint Kylie as unbothered. Meghan is still within the elite orbit. The previous drama reframed as internet speculation gone too far. But behind the scenes, it was anything but natural. Here's how the setup was supposed to work. Meghan's PR strategist coordinated with a friendly paparazzo, someone known to work with celebrity teams for prearranged candidates. The location? A trendy new wellness cafe in West Hollywood, one that Kylie was rumored to frequent on Sunday afternoons. Meghan would show up solo, dressed down but still stylish. Nothing flashy. Think soft cashmere, minimal makeup, a sleek ponytail. Effortless chic. The "I'm just like you" look. She would sit outside, order a matcha, take a few calls, and wait. Meanwhile, a photographer would be stationed nearby, ready to capture the coincidental meeting. Kylie would walk in. Meghan would smile. They'd exchange a greeting. Click, 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 boom. Headline: Kylie Jenner and Meghan Markle reunite at LA hotspot. No bad blood here. It was audacious. But if it worked, it could erase the red carpet disaster. But then the unthinkable happened. Kylie found out. And once she knew, she didn't just avoid the trap. She flipped it. Let's break it down. Sources inside Kylie's circle say she was tipped off 2 days before the accidental run-in. The cafe? She hadn't been there in over a month. The Sunday brunch rumor? Deliberately planted by Meghan's team, through mutual PR friendlies, who were trying to gauge Kylie's schedule. But Hollywood is small, and nothing stays secret for long. So when the tip reached Kylie's manager, their response was swift. Tell her we'll play. That's where it gets cold. Kylie didn't cancel her appearance. She didn't issue a warning. She let it unfold. She let Meghan arrive first. Cameras ready. Outfit carefully curated. Posture perfect. She even brought a copy of a book, subtle, intellectual, and held it just high enough to be photographed, sipping her matcha with the casual grace of someone who'd moved on. And then, Kylie showed up, but not alone. She came with Hailey Bieber and Kendall Jenner. And instead of heading to the same cafe, she paused on the sidewalk, right across the street. Perfect sightline. Perfect angle. She looked at the table where Meghan was sitting. Then she laughed. Not a big theatrical laugh. A small, sharp, knowing smirk, aimed directly in Meghan's direction. Then she turned to Hailey, whispered something, and they walked the other way. Deliberate. Icy. Devastating. The photographer, now exposed, still clicked. Captured Meghan mid-smile, realizing in real time what was happening. She had been made. And the pictures? Oh, they went viral all right. Just not in the way Meghan hoped. Meghan Markle snubbed again as Kylie Jenner avoids staged run-in. Kylie Jenner outsmarts Pap's setup, walks right past Meghan's trap. Meghan's desperate move backfires. Again, even fashion blogs, usually neutral, couldn't resist the spectacle. The outfit that was meant to say effortless, suddenly dissected as overdone. The book? Pretentious. The whole moment? Embarrassing. And it didn't end there. Reddit threads lit up with breakdowns of the photos. Timelines, outfit theories, fan conspiracies. TikTok edits showed side-by-side comparisons of Meghan waiting and Kylie walking. One creator dubbed it the slowest burn in celebrity history. But perhaps the most savage commentary came from a viral tweet. Meghan planned to come back. Kylie planned a masterclass. Now here's the emotional twist. Insiders say Meghan knew she'd been outplayed. She left the cafe early. No calls. No photos. No follow-up press quotes. Just silence. Back at home, her team scrambled to find a spin. Some suggested denying the setup altogether. Others pitched a mental health narrative, that Meghan was simply enjoying a solo moment when paparazzi intruded. But none of it stuck, because the public already knew the truth. They saw the performance. They smelled the PR. And this time, they weren't buying it. Even Meghan's supporters were quiet. No hashtags. No op-eds. Just that same chilling silence. And the worst part? Hollywood was watching. Not just fans. Not just the press. Executives. Because when you stage a fake reconciliation and it fails, it tells the industry one thing. You're not just controversial. You're unstable. Unpredictable. untrustworthy. And once that label sticks in this town, it's career poison. Because Hollywood doesn't blacklist you with a memo. It just stops calling. But Meghan still had hope. One final plan. A secret event, invite only, where she believed she could finally reclaim the narrative. But what she didn't know, someone inside her own circle had already betrayed her. And the next leak would shatter more than her image. It would expose everything. It didn't take long. One look at the photos, one scroll through the hashtags, and the internet did what it always does when it smells desperation. It ate. Meghan Markle thought the paparazzi moment with Kylie would flip the narrative. Instead, it detonated it. And in the fallout came the memes, the TikToks, the savage side-by-side edits, the commentaries that cut deeper than any tabloid headline ever could. But this time, it wasn't just the usual suspects turning on her. This time, it was the next generation. And they weren't just laughing. They were dismantling her. Let's start with TikTok, ground zero for public opinion warfare in 2025. Within 24 hours of the failed cafe run-in, over 300 parody videos had been uploaded under the tag #MarkleMoment. By the end of the week, that tag had racked up 45 million views. One viral clip showed Meghan sipping her matcha, staring across the street, while a voiceover played Britney Spears' iconic line, "It's Britney, B***TCH. Cut to Kylie turning away, cue dramatic zoom, and the Mortal Kombat finish her sound. It was brutal, but it didn't stop there. Another creator used AI to simulate an imagined inner monologue of Meghan sitting at the cafe. "Okay, Meghan, just smile. She's coming. Wait, where's she going? No, she's not walking past me. Kylie, don't do this. Kylie." Cut to the outro. "I don't know you," director's cut. Thousands of comments. Tens of thousands of likes. And then came the duets. TikTok influencers, not tabloid junkies, but fashion girlies, marketing bros, Gen Z comedians, started reacting in real time. Y'all, Meghan really tried to stage a moment with Kylie and got edited out of reality. She fumbled the bag, the backup bag, the clutch, the emotional support tote, and the entire Birkin vault. Imagine trying to stage a comeback and walking straight into a meme format. And the most viral one? A side-by-side. Left panel, Meghan walking into the cafe. Right panel, Kylie walking away with Hailey and Kendall. Overlay, when you realize you're the main character in someone else's villain origin story. It was funny, but beneath the humor was something far more dangerous for Meghan. Public rejection, not just by celebrities, by the crowd she desperately needed, young audiences. Because here's what no one in Meghan's camp seemed to realize. In 2025, social capital doesn't come from legacy status. It doesn't come from titles. It doesn't come from press releases. It comes from authenticity. And to Gen Z and younger millennials, Meghan didn't feel authentic anymore. She felt curated, plastic, always one step behind the trend, while pretending she invented it. And the cafe stunt confirmed it. This wasn't a woman rising above drama. This was someone trying to manufacture her own redemption arc. And it blew up in her face. But the worst blow didn't come from TikTok. It came from Twitter. Or rather, X, as it's now called. Within hours of the cafe moment going viral, the platform lit up. And not just from fans. From journalists, PR consultants, Hollywood interns. People inside the machine. One former publicist tweeted, "When your crisis strategy is to trap a billionaire's daughter in a photo op, you're no longer a duchess. You're just bad PR." Another wrote, "You don't corner Kylie Jenner. You let her summon you." The burn was real. But what came next was a turning point. Because a thread from a verified media insider went viral fast. It detailed a timeline of Meghan's PR flops over the last 18 months. The Spotify fallout, the Archetypes delay, the South Park parody, the canceled animated series, the podcast that vanished after one trailer, the staff turnover at Archwell, the wardrobe sponsorship debacle at the Gotham Film Awards, the rumors about Netflix reassessing the deal, and now, the Kylie Jenner trap. The thread concluded with this now iconic line. At some point, it stops being a pattern of bad luck and starts looking like the brand is the problem. That tweet alone hit 20 million impressions. And guess who liked it? Several blue-check influencers with ties to the Kardashian orbit. A former royal reporter. A Netflix producer who once defended the Sussexes. Even Chrissy Teigen, once adjacent to Meghan's inner circle, commented, "Oof, bad play." That one comment, screenshotted, reposted, dissected. Meghan had officially entered what PR experts call the echo chamber of decline. Every misstep amplified. Every attempt at recovery reframed as manipulation. Every silence interpreted as guilt. And there was no clean exit. Because here's the cruel trick of digital culture. Once you become a meme, it's hard to become a message again. But Meghan tried. She launched a soft reset the following week. Posted a photo of herself in a garden, holding a book. Caption: "Silence can speak volumes." It was supposed to be deep, mysterious, unbothered. Instead, thousands of replies piled in. But not louder than Kylie's footsteps walking away. "Ma'am, your silence has subtitles. The silence is broken by the sound of rejection. You're not being silenced. You're being ignored." Even her supporters were quiet, tired, uncertain. Because how do you defend someone who keeps setting the fire, then claiming to be burned? And here's where the real damage set in. The cultural shift. Meghan stopped being a symbol of defiance, of independence, of pushing back against toxic systems. She became a symbol of performative empowerment. And Gen Z? They're allergic to that. They don't want princess narratives. They want raw stories, messy truths, vulnerability, not varnish. And Meghan? She kept giving them polish when they wanted pain. She kept giving them curated strategy when they wanted emotional honesty. She kept giving them photo ops when they craved reality. And in doing so, she lost them. But the final twist? The internet wasn't just turning on Meghan. It was turning towards something else. Something deeper. Something inside her own circle. Because while everyone was laughing at the meme of the week, someone in Meghan's team had been leaking screenshots, texts, voice notes, details no one was supposed to know. The next betrayal wasn't going to come from the Kardashians. It was going to come from within. And what they exposed would flip the entire story on its head. Let's get one thing clear. Hollywood never sends you an official letter saying you've been blacklisted. There's no "Dear Meghan" envelope. No dramatic conference call. No blacklist database with your name in bold red font. It's quieter than that. You just stop getting calls. Invites get lost. Emails go unanswered. Suddenly, everyone's calendar is full, but somehow they're all posting from the same rooftop afterparty without you. And Meghan Markle? She's living that silence. In real time. Because after the Kylie Jenner red carpet shutdown, after the cafe setup collapse, after the social media backlash left her trending for all the wrong reasons, the final blow came not from public humiliation, but from private rejection. Hollywood began ghosting her. And not just anyone. The very people Meghan had once courted. The power brokers who took meetings. The stylists, the agents, the media consultants, the board members of causes she once headlined. One by one, they started pulling away. Let's start with the obvious. The unfollowing. In a digital world, silence is measured in follows and likes. And in the span of 3 weeks, Meghan's follower list began shrinking like a designer dress in a hot dryer. Gone. 3 fashion influencers with a combined reach of 40 million. Gone. A top-tier celebrity stylist who once called Meghan an inspiration to dress. Gone. A key Netflix executive who used to like every Archwell-related post. And the one that really set off the alarms? Reese Witherspoon. She didn't unfollow Meghan directly, but fans noticed Meghan unfollowed her first. And then, radio silence. Insiders say Meghan was hoping to pitch a collaboration to Reese's Hello Sunshine production company, a female empowerment series framed as resilience redefined. But the pitch meeting? Cancelled. Scheduling conflict, they said. But behind closed doors, a producer leaked the truth. We don't need more noise. Ouch. Now let's talk stylists and glam squads, Hollywood's unofficial diplomats. These are the people who decide who gets dressed in Dior and who ends up in discontinued Zara. And right now, Meghan's name is off their call sheets. One stylist who'd previously worked with Meghan on red carpet prep quietly told her assistant, "We can't risk another viral misfire. No more staged looks. No more statement coats with no occasion." Another said, "Her narrative doesn't match her wardrobe. That's why she looks lost, brutal." But in Hollywood, optics matter more than reality. And Meghan's optics? Inconsistent. Try hard. Tone deaf. She'd gone from relatable royalty to rebrand roulette. And the consequence? Events. Let's talk about who stopped inviting her. Because this is where the Real list begins. 1. The L'Oreal Women of Worth Gala pulled invite. She'd attended before. Headlined, even. But this year? Gone. A leaked email between producers read, "Given the optics of recent incidents, best to go with someone less polarizing." 2. The Baby Gala. Her invite never arrived. Despite her past donations. Despite being photographed on the red carpet in 2021. This year, the roster went out. No Meghan. No Harry. Insiders whispered the event's lead sponsor didn't want drama. 3. Variety's Power of Women brunch, quietly removed. She was floated as a possible speaker. She even submitted a topic.